Hey, my name is Scotty, and in this tutorial we're going to be sketching this New York street scene using my loose ink and watercolor sketching technique. So to give us an anchor points or structure this sketch, I'm going to create a grid across here, just a very simple grid. Let's put 2 dots and just move them around a bit until you feel like you've got 3 equal sections there, and put 2 dots on the other side. And between those, let's put one right in the middle between these 2 points. One there and one there. Let's actually get a pencil, so hopefully you've got one handy. And let's draw that bottom third, let's draw a light line, and that is going to be our eye line. So let's put a dot there, and that's going to be our point for all the sketch to aim at. So it's the foundation point for the whole sketch. So that distance we have for that dot here, for the vanishing point, let's go straight up into the top and a little bit to the left. So going down and then just go back up, all the random lines here, and going out, and then the lamp, don't have to be perfect, and 3 circles. I'm just adding it all in one line, and it adds to the looseness here. Even if you go slow, and even those weird wacky lines, that they make the sketch look better. Now let's zoom into this person. So let's first draw the head. I always break little people into 3 shapes. So we have the head, between the neck, the shoulders and the feet. We'll put a dot halfway. So let's do the second shape, which is the body. The arms come out. Now with the legs we come down and taper to a little point, and then we come back up. Let's do the little head to match the same size as the other one. So, and then the arm comes out here into the head. So we have 2 people. So let's do the top of the cars here, and the bottom of the wheels here, and some lights, 1, 2. There's the vanishing point there. I'm going to be doing this a lot in this tutorial. I'll be putting my finger there on the vanishing point and aiming lines towards it. So you notice the head is equal in line with these people's heads. So the only difference is that it's a lot bigger and his feet go all the way down. So around here and then to the bottom there. Jacket is here. We'll just divide up some of that detail. And one line once again. So I'm just going around all the shapes there. And it's very impressionistic and loose. And then the line continues along here, straight along the bottom, and we'll stop about there. We have the vanishing point here, so I'll put my finger on it. Then up on the top of the page you can see the building cutting through that line. But the most important thing we want to do is make sure that angle of the top of the building is aiming down towards this vanishing point. So it can be still loose, but just following that line. But make sure we hit that point there. So that whole aim should aim down to there. But then this bit is straight down. And it should just be a little bit to the right of that dot down there. But it can still be wobbly. Now let's do the next building. And then when it comes down, so I'm aiming down towards this dot, it is stop just above that lamp. Let's continue this line up. Going straight down. And I'm not looking at a vanishing point now. Just looking at the photo. And another line aiming towards here. And let's just put a little open square, but we're just going to create a silhouette that's similar by stepping down, so we can see those layers there. So here we want really expressive lines where the tree is, so it's almost like creating a mini cloud. So just add some shapes of tops of cars that go past halfway. And then once again, the bottom of the wheels, they'll aim at that vanishing point. So just hinting at a few wheels going up and down like that. So that's my big shapes. I'm happy with that, the angles. Now we're going to do some foreground detail. So we've got our point there, a little bit higher than the point of the building. And we go straight down. How far does that sign go? All the way to the bottom. I'm going to draw that big rectangle. Draw that shape. So once again, if I pretend to go up here, it's quite a steep angle. So I'm going to just add the top line like that. Let's go around like this. Once again, you can add some detail with your one line stroke. And up, almost touching the sign there. Down there, technique section. So you could do that whole thing in one line. Comes back and then joins to the bottom, going past that dot I drew before. And stopping about here, just the middle of the trash can, the bottom, outline that shape. And I'll add that detail on the sign here as well. So we'll add a border goes in there, and then way. Now this person here, all the heads are lining up along the vanishing point, so it'll be the same for this person. So that's the length of the person, so he's closer than this person, so his feet come a bit further down, and put in the first silhouette. Then the torso comes down to about there, that's where his crotch is. Let's continue that shape. There's an elbow at the back, and the front comes straight down about there. So now his leg comes in, curves in, and then the other leg goes out and in, like that. He's got a hood. The top of the car runs where the eyeline is, right up where his head is, and then down. Now the lights are a really nice thing to add to cars. If you miss anything, don't miss the lights. Inner shapes here. Still, we're aiming towards roughly that vanishing point, and a tremendous amount of detail could go into this further. So what I'm going to do for this particular tutorial is just add detail into these back buildings, but leave this building and this building just as an impressionistic brush stroke right into there. So a nice quick line there going through. For each step you've done here, put a line across. We'll add in 3 boxes, so they go down there and straight down. We've already set up all the perspective around it. And inside these, let's just add a few horizontal lines. Building here has details on it, and we also want all those details, all the windows, to line up into this vanishing point. Actually, we could go down the whole thing, so let's just put dots. Space them out evenly, going vertically down. So I'm going to put this line in, aiming that top bit to this point, and aim the bottom bit to the point. And then this one, see how flat they get? Now they're aiming down here, and that will show you that perspective. And adding a line underneath. So I'm using my round 10 brush, and we've got our colours here. And I'll use cadmium yellow, and then we'll add in just a hint of cadmium red here. And let's put some colour in there. And then this, and then the walk signs here. Let's put in the traffic light over here. And I'm going to dry this now, and then we'll get on to the other colours. Now that's dry, we can do some big sections of colour. So the first big colour we'll do is this back building here, and it's a warm beigey colour. So I'm going to add burnt umber here, and a tiny bit of Payne's grey. We'll put it at the bottom, avoid the windows if you can, and we'll start it down here. Now see how light it is now? So going up away from the bottom. Now we're going to do a similar thing for the blue building. So we'll get the colour called cerulean blue, and add just a tiny bit of Payne's grey. And we'll start at the bottom. Once again, don't touch this one, but go around. Should get more and more pale here, and just put a brush stroke in there. It's a bit darker. Now this green section where the tree is, let's add sap green into our palette. Thicker amount down the bottom here where the contrast is, and then once again take it out of my brush and pull it across. Looks like there's some yellow, so I'm going to use lemon yellow just in the tops of the tree there. Now this building here, we have burnt sienna and alizarin crimson. So leave the gaps of white and come here over to there, and then that stroke going up like that, and maybe a light, very light little dot up there to continue it up. Burnt sienna, Payne's grey, and a bit of the leftover burnt umber. Shouldn't be too dark, they're just around here, just quite impressionistic there going up. So we've got lots of white here and here, and that will make it look really interesting, centering around this focal point. A few strokes here, leave lots of white, would be the cooler colour. So we'll have that cerulean blue with a bit of Payne's grey. We'll start it off around here, in between those, a little bit darker tone around here. Now we've covered most of the big areas of colour. Now let's let that dry again. So I'll get my hair dryer. The next color I'm going to use Payne's Grey. So put some more stronger Payne's Grey now there. So around the cars here, I'll keep the lights free. So we've got some in there, and then we've got these people here. The trash can there. So they look like this grey and then this blue. Then can you get cerulean blue, and we'll put in the top here. So I'm going to put a stroke of cerulean blue with a bit of Payne's Grey just through there. So I'll add a line through there. So I've got my burnt sienna, which is usually what I use for skin tones. So I'm just doing a little bit on my brush, put it into where the skin is. So on the heads. Another nice detail is the lights. So for the cars, I'll get cadmium red. So just a little bit on the brush again, and just put a stroke through there. Cadmium red. Actually need a bit more. Then I'll use that cerulean blue. I can see that someone has a shirt or jacket that's cerulean blue. Just add a bit more detail back in, some sap green, maybe even some Viridian green, cooler green. In the corner here, let's just add a few darker dots. And then the windows in this building, we could use this Payne's Grey, some thin window lines. And on this side too, there's some lines, so a hint of the lines. So it's the cadmium yellow and cadmium red. So I get my brush, tapping it and putting some splatters here, so just with my finger. So for shadows, I'm going to use my purple lake color. You could also use ultramarine and put in some rose to get a light purple. The shadows would be under the car, so through there, and under this car here, in line with the wheel. There's people here, just underneath every object we have on the ground there. Now last step is highlights. I've got my Uniball Signo pen, and we've already got lots of highlights going on here, which is nice, but I would just put a little highlight on the top of people and edges like that. See where the red is going on to my taxi sign? Anywhere where there's would be a highlight on the top edge. Trash can, top of his head. So that's how I sketched this New York street scene using ink and watercolor. Hope you enjoyed the process of seeing how I did that with the structure and the colors. If you'd like to see the full tutorial, that's over on my Patreon membership, where you can get the tutorial, the reference and the template, as well as having access to my whole library of tutorials, my full tutorials and my fundamentals, which will help you if you're a beginner. There's also a community where you can post your sketch and ask me a question. Otherwise, there's another tutorial right here on YouTube. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.